Welcome to another bonus review episode of Happiness, a Sceptics Guide with self-confessed serial self-help abuser Paul Flower and me, psychologist and coach Gary Wood.
Welcome to Happiness, a Sceptics Guide. This is our regular, semi-regular recap and review episode whereby we look at the past 5 episodes and remind ourselves what they were about and what helped me personally, as I am sort of patient zero in this experiment, and the other things that I think may have been useful to other people. So we do 5 episodes, then we do a mini recap, and this is the mini recap episode. Just in case you were wondering, I am joined as ever by the esteemed Dr. Gary Wood.
Yes, hogging the limelight as usual, I see. Right.
Sorry about that.
Okay, then. So, the episodes, I think it's only right I should remind you of the episodes. So, we're looking at episodes 8 to 12, and 8 was mindfulness, 9 was...
Mindfulness with chainsaws, as I like to call
mindfulness and chainsaws, which I don't think anybody, nobody else is going to have thought of that, are they? We didn't. No. We didn't think of it. Let's be honest. Anyway, so it's 8 mindfulness and chainsaws and happiness. 9 was talking cures and happiness. 10 was the self-help industry, and 11 was self-help again and toxic positivity. And number 12 was the third in our self-help 3-parter, and that was how to read a self-help book. So,
indeed.
It's just to get an idea of what were your takeaways or what were the main headlines for you. Maybe what have you tried out? If you have, what's been better?
I think these were kind of more general sort of information episodes, and they were more about giving a wider understanding of some of the terminology used in these areas and a breakdown of that, more than being sort of advice that was immediately employable, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I will run through them one by one. In the mindfulness episode, we talked about gaining liberation from conditioning, savoring the moment, sort of eating without the TV on burns more calories, for example. But the whole mindfulness thing has become like an opiate for the masses. It's not an answer to all ills, is essentially what we were saying. But also mindfulness doesn't necessarily mean meditation. Nope. Which I think was the kind of belief that I'd sort of mistakenly fallen into. It just means blocking out the noise, and you can use it as one of the many relaxation tools. But it was, of course, hard to relax when there are chainsaws in the background, as there was during that episode.
Or paying more attention to the noise. I remember doing a meditation. It's called Dynamic Meditation, series of courses. And we were in a noisy environment. And the facilitator said, okay, use the noise to deepen your focus. So you focused on the noise, because the idea is that the noises intrude. What about just paying full attention to the noise? That is still mindfulness, rather than thinking that noise shouldn't exist, I need to block it out. We can just pay attention.
Yeah.
Yes, so mindfulness can be just paying attention on purpose. And the temptation is that we have to clear our minds of thoughts. So there is something to be said for just noticing when a thought starts and when it ends. So you imagine like ripples on a pool. So you say, oh, there's the thought about putting out the bins. And there goes a thought about putting out the bins. Now, you're probably never going to, find Buddha under the Bodhi tree telling people to focus on this. It doesn't seem like the stereotypical meditation, but that is mindfulness. Just paying attention to the ebb and flow of the thought.
Excellent. And good recap. Number 9 was about talking cures for unhappiness. And I think had I heard this episode prior to some of my earlier depressive incidents, then, I think it would have taken me in a different direction about finding help, because there is a lot more help out there these days. So I think one of the main takeaways from that was, about thinking and doing things in a different way, using CBT to do that, and how to distinguish also between the need for coaching or counselling. And as I say, the key thing is that, it gives you the strategies to use, the things that can help. So CBT can be useful for some people, unlike rumpology, which was also mentioned during that episode.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I mean, I did say that it was this famous Hollywood mother asked you to send a fax in the fax days, fax through a picture of your derriere. And I said it was for a small fee, but it actually was, I think it was something like $125.
So it wasn't a small fee.
No, it wasn't a small fee. And of course the fee, I mean, if she'd have thought it through, I think the fee could have been size dependent, couldn't it?
Oh, yeah, that would have helped, yeah.
Yeah, so people with very small derrieres would just be paying about, in my case, about £7.50. So there you go.
£7.50. You wish.
750 more like. Yeah. Okay then. So
I think the main takeaway for other people from that particular episode actually is that all forms of therapy work in the same way. So, do your research. Specific techniques only account for about 15%, I think you said. Even taking the step to find help will kind of mean that you find it. It's about acknowledging what is going on for you and addressing that, basically.
And as long as it's not some kind of totally off-the-wall therapy or something, the phrase I used was, what are the outcome studies? Can you find an outcome study on it? So have people tested its efficacy? If they haven't, then it's probably just as well to avoid it. Now, one of the most famous I wouldn't say it is infamous types of therapy is something called NLP. That's neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
And there are great claims that we can transform people and cure people in 20 minutes. But the outcome studies are virtually non-existent. And some of the ones that do exist actually contradict some of the NLP precepts. So I would encourage people to have a look at, are there outcome studies? And when you found some outcome studies, you're pretty much in safer waters.
Brilliant. We moved on then to a 3-parter on the self-help industry. So we can kind of combine these 3 episodes, 10, 11 and 12 to a certain degree. The self-help industry itself, you need to apply the advice within to gain something, is one of the things I'd written down here as a note. Some people don't buy the books to change. They buy them to reinforce their worldview as a sort of comfort blanket.
Yeah, that was, of course, that quote you've written down was a review of one of my books. It said it was quite an average self-help book because you have to apply the advice if you're going to get something from it.
Sure, but I think that was also a takeaway to a certain degree that I think...
Yes, she's hit the nail on the head, that reviewer, that of course you have to apply it. I think there's a temptation throughout self-help and throughout with therapy and coaching, that you turn up, have the session, and then your life's fixed. And of course, it's the bits that happen in between are just important, if not sometimes more important, because what you're doing is you're applying it to your own life and you're making it your own. Otherwise, it just stays a nice thought in somebody else's book, somebody else's coaching session. It needs to be applied to you for you to make it your own.
Yeah. I think I've been guilty as anybody else of reading these things and, letting them wash over me, thinking that I remember bits of them, even by writing those bits down almost, or writing the headlines of those bits down. And then I never refer back to them, or I don't think too much about them. So it's definitely a lesson that I need to take on board. And that, is encapsulated a little bit within the SQ3R acronym that you came up with, the survey, question, read, react, review.
Yeah, we mentioned it was a study skills technique that I've adapted for self-help books. And the idea is it's to get people to treat a self-help book as a personal development course. So if you turned up to a course and the facilitator, can't even get me words out today.
Yeah, him as well, yeah.
The facilitator said, okay, we're now going to do this exercise. And if I don't fancy that. Okay, then we'll do, no, that's not going to work for me. And you can imagine you're going to be paying for a course and you're not going to be doing anything.
Do you think then that some of the gurus that we talked about in the past, the Anthony Robbins and their ilk, do you think they're onto something in charging quite a lot for their sessions, in the sense that if you charge a lot, then somebody should be thinking, if I'm paying this much, I need to get something back, rather than paying $9.99 for a book or whatever. If I'm paying hundreds of pounds or dollars, I need to get something back from this.
Well, the last time I looked, first of all, I should say, I sent off for this little book, Notes from a Friend, and it was a distillation of Tony Robbins' 2 main self-help books. And then I got a phone call from someone saying, thank you for sending off for the book. Would you be interested in the up-and-coming London course? And I went, well, tell me more. And she says, it's an unbelievable price. And I went, yeah,
she was right.
Then she followed it up with, you're not going to believe it. And I thought, yes, that's usually what unbelievable means, but I'm still following you. And then she says, this course, and then she did lots of padding. I said, go on, give me the figure, hit me. And she went, $850. I went, what? I went, that's incredible. She went, I knew you'd think so. She says, and it will transform your life. If you go now, $850, she says, but if you wait until another week, it's going to be $1,350. And I'm thinking, I thought she meant £8.50. And I went, well, that's a bit of a jump, isn't it? Early bird. And then I realised £850 was the cheapest you could get that course for.
Well, it's certainly, if it doesn't transform your life, it'll transform your bank balance in a negative way.
And she said, it will transform your life. I said, I'm sure it will. I said, I'll be on the streets. No sense of humour, no sense of irony. Anyway, needless to say, I didn't go. And needless to say, my life wasn't transformed beyond all measure. But the thing about those courses is it's often 8,000 people in a room, a great big hall. Yeah. And of course, you have the sound and everybody's reared up to go. And it creates something that's known as oceanic feeling. So when you go to concerts and, you're kind of taken up in the moments, or you go to a football match, not that I've been to one in years, you're taken up in the moments. So this oceanic feeling, it takes a while to wear off. So you'll come away thinking, that was amazing. And then you've got a very, very small window with which to do something with that. And but it's the same principle. So you can spend £8.50 on a lecture at a local library and you could get a bit of a buzz and then you could work on that. Or you can spend £1,350 and get a bigger buzz. But the point is, in both cases, the buzz will wear off. And it's what you do and how quickly you capitalise on the buzz.
Absolutely.
There's my Tony Robbins story.
Well done. I was very impressed with that.
So
yeah, I mean, the other bits of pick up from the self-help book episode were, for me anyway, were, there are types of book, growth or problem solving. Yep. You're either moving towards or away from something. Whether you identify with the author is going to help you to identify with the topics and the content of the book. Does the book motivate you? What's the tone like? Is it the kind of thing that you would use in your own day-to-day life? So to me, all 5 episodes were very helpful, but I guess I would say that because I've been involved in them. But, I think that there were learnings in them, and there's a learning in this one. I've never even heard of oceanic feelings. So
there you go. Yes. Well, it just basically means everybody gets caught up in the moment. It's a bit like when you go to a comedy show. And I mean, I've seen some absolutely fantastic comedians, but nobody was laughing, well, except me, of course, because it was quite dark humour. But people didn't think it was right to laugh at them, so nobody did. So when you go to you see some comedies like, I'm not going to name any names, but these kind of Saturday evening comedians. And they come out with the most inane, unimaginative piffle about, oh, my daughter did this, or my son picked his nose. And you get people roaring.
Yeah, people are rolling around.
Rolling in the aisles, grabbing a sponge. And you think, what the hell?
And in a similar vein, I've been to comedy shows where everybody was laughing and I was laughing too, and I came away thinking, yeah, that was really good. And then I've seen the same routine performed, in a TV special or a TV recording of that particular tour, and not found it anywhere near as funny. Whereas I suppose to an extent you've heard the jokes already, but I would still have expected to laugh at some of them. And it's certainly not true of every comedian. Some are as funny second time around and some aren't, which is kind of weird.
Well, it's also
definitely
part of that is that oceanic feeling. You're in a moment and I remember years ago, I went to see a play called School for Scandal by Sheridan, and it was a comedy, apparently. And we sat there and nothing was hitting. We're thinking, nah, it's not funny. But people were laughing round us, and it was about 6 or 7 of us, and we're going, it's not funny though, is it? And they're going, no, it's rubbish. And then I said, what if we just laugh along with other people? Anyway, we started doing this, and the act of laughing along with people became far more funny. And in the end, we were laughing far more riotously and were asked to leave. So we never found out what happened in that riotously funny comedy, School for Scandal.
Not recommended by Dr. Gary Wood.
I was just looking and I was thinking, you what? It was just the unfunniest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
They're not putting that on the poster, are they?
No.
The unfunniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
But even the free tickets, it was a robbery of time. Anyway, has any of this actually made you happier in any way?
Well, it's an interesting thought. I think the whole pursuit of this is generally making me happier overall. And I think a lot of it has been worthwhile, and there are a lot of learnings in there, things that I didn't know, things that I think will be very useful to other people. And I believe that we've cut through a lot of the piffle. We get to the point very quickly. And whether any of this has made me happy, I'm not sure. I would need to probably employ some of the tactics when next reading a self-help book or next thinking about self-help. I think the mindfulness thing is useful. I was, recently on holiday and was able to kind of completely turn off at certain points and think only of your surroundings. Yep. So I think that is definitely very useful. And, if I can go back to those things at the times when I need them, then, it will undoubtedly be helpful.
Well, I mean, that in itself, I mean, we used to be able to switch off on holiday. Let's be honest. That's what, I mean, I remember going on holiday and, I wouldn't phone anybody. I'd disappear for 3 weeks.
And without the phone, there was no means of anybody getting in touch with you.
No, and I love that. But now it's, I mean, you often see on social media people going, oh, look at me, I'm having a wonderful time. And I look at the picture and I'm thinking, obviously not, because if you've got time to post to tell people you're having a wonderful time, then the wonderful time isn't enough.
Yeah.
So if you
need some more fulfillment, don't
yes.
you? You need to have everybody else's kind of backup on that, everybody else's affirmation.
If I have to see anybody else's feet in front of a swimming pool, I will scream.
That will never be a photo that I will post. I have the ugliest feet and the biggest.
Right. Well, anyway, thank you very much for that. I'll take your word for it. I don't require any photographic evidence.
You'll never get it.
But the point is that if you can just do that to be able to switch off and just enjoy the moment for its own sake, that is a little bit of happiness.
I agree completely.
So, what do we need to talk about in the next few episodes for you to feel like this journey or story is moving in a worthwhile direction for you and other people, listeners?
I think we've got enough episodes under our belt that we need to look a little bit at how to make it stick. I think sometimes, I know all the moves, but I can't do the dance, if you know what I mean. So helping to get a way of, making these things easier to fall back on or easier to recall when you need them is definitely a thing for me. There are a number of general topics that I think we have in mind that we would like to visit. But making it stick would be useful.
So in the next episode, then, what we can do is we can start exploring. So you can think for the moment what skills you have now, what you've done that's worked in the past, and then I can ask you next time and we'll start to put together some ideas for how someone might structure a course in happiness based on the material that we've covered so far. How does that sound?
It sounds marvellous.
Oh, yes, once more with conviction.
It sounds marvellous.
Excellent. And you can put those 2 fingers down for a start. Thanks again for joining us. That was and is Happiness, a Sceptics Guide with Paul Flower and me, Gary Wood. If you've enjoyed the podcast, do leave us a review and tell your friends. And remember to hit the subscribe and follow button wherever you find your podcasts so you'll be the first to know about new episodes.